Greeting teacher and hello everyone. I am Thy Thuch. In this video, I am making a video presentation for the complete term of the course POL607 Politics of Developing Area for the academic year 2025-2026. In this presentation, I responsible Chapter 3 Modernisation and Political Change. And this chapter is a summary from the book Understanding Third World Politics, Theory of Political Change and Development, authored by Professor Brian Clyde-Smith. Here is the table of content that I'm gonna talk, which are each point, including the conclusion of the chapter. Without further ado, let's begin with number 1, its origin. But before I'm gonna talk about the origin, allow me to briefly identify the key term of modernization and political change. Modernization in international relations theory is an approach that views the world as moving from traditional to modern society through a linear path of economic, social, and political development. And political change in IO theory is understood through the different lenses, including the power struggle of realism, the cooperative potential of liberalism, the influence of idea and norm in constructivism, and the focus on systematic inequality in Marxism. So let's begin with origin. That you can see in the slideshow, the context with the picture from the different period of World War, from World War I to World War II. It also refers to the changing and the transforming from the traditional one to the modernization. So the modernization theory is a body of thought which attempt to incorporate a large number of society, many of which were in the process of becoming new state, into a theory about change. And the state in this context refers to the 4 key elements of an independent state from the colonialism periods of time, including their territory, the population, the government, and its sovereignty. It also had some of its root to the optimism following the Second World War and the widespread belief the country achieving or approaching independence would not only be freed from exploitation by the First World, but would also have benefit from connect with the exploiter technology, culture, liberal democracy, and capitalism. The advanced countries were perceived as having poverty and inequality, especially in level of education, under the control. And democracy had triumphed over the fascism in war, and Marxism had been discredited by Stalinism. For those who didn't know about the Marxism and Stalinism, Marxism is a social, economic, and political theory from the 19th century developed by Karl Marx. And the Stalinism was a political, economic, and social system of governance and policy implementation in the Soviet Union by Joseph Stalin from 1927 to 1953. Number 2, social evolution. Social evolution in international relations theory use principle of evolution like the variate selection and restabilization to explain the long-term changes in international structure, such as the shift from an offensive release to defensive. And the modernization theory is also concerned with the social transformation taking place in society, whose economy and social system are changing rapidly. In this case, I list 3 of them in the social evolution, including the problem of economic development political stability, and social cultural change. Social cultural change and the problem of economic development and political stability, they are interconnected with each other, which problem in one area can impact two other. For example, economic problem like low productivity and macroeconomic instability can trigger political instability and social unrest as well. And political instability creates uncertainty that discourage investment and disrupt long-term development, while excessive stability can lead to entrenchment and resistance to reform. Another point in the second point of this social evolution, consequences of independence from imperial control, meaning that after achieving independence, former imperial colony face significant challenges in nation building with a different of political, economic, and social consequences. The last one of this social evolution is a highly qualitative aspect of the transition from pre-industrial to industrial society. For those who didn't know about the pre-industrial and industrial society, pre-industrial refers to the period before the Industrial Revolution or before 1750, characterized by society that rely on human and animal labor rather than a large-scale mechanization. The social evolution is also emphasized on the progressive continuity involved two sets of transformation, including increased complexity and greater specialization in human organization and activity in the social, economic, and political sphere. And the special social and cultural characteristics associated with being modern can be grouped under three headings, including first, there is the idea of an increasing level of social differentiation. Second, modernization means the diffusion of secular or rational norms within a culture. And the last one, or the third one, modernization involves the transformation of the individual personality. Number 3 is about the differentiation. The differentiation refers to the social. That was an idea developed most fully by the French philosopher and sociologist Emile Durkheim, who applied the idea of the division of labor of society in general. As a society grows and becomes more complex in the world of specialization, increased and specialized roles become more interdependent. What does it mean, the idea of the division of labor to society? In Durkheim's analysis, the division of labor manifests in advanced society, such that professional groups do not work of separate sectors, and the group itself functions, it was assumed, more efficiently than if every individual had to perform every act on his or her own. What does it mean, interdependent? Meaning that independent on each other among the society of the nation or the country. And Emile Durkheim also described the process of becoming modern as development of organic solidarity. The growing division of labor means a transformation in the nature of social solidarity, and individuality is something which a society possesses. What does it mean, organic solidarity? It's a concept by Emile Durkheim that describing social cohesion in modern society, which arise from the high division of labor and interdependence of specialized roles. Let's move to the number 4 of the chapter, which is secularization. Secularization is a process by which society becomes more rationalized. It occurs when people perceive that the circumstances around them are changeable, by human intervention or by human action among other of the nation. If religious belief such as fatalism prevents society from seeing the environment in the way, then religion may become an obstacle to modernization. And Mark Weber also described about whose theory of social action distinguishes between action determined by reason and action determined by habit or emotion. Mark Weber, for those who didn't know about the Mark Weber is famous for his analysis of capitalism, particularly in his book The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Mark Weber also argued that the spirit of capitalism, a mindset focused on acquisition, profit, and hard work for its own sake, was unintentionally fostered by the value of ascetic Protestantism, especially Calvinism, which linked worldly success to signs of divine favor. And the idea of rational economic action is not simply about self-interest, but about a society where actions are increasingly organized by calculated, efficient, and predictable principles, moving away from traditional or emotional motivation. And for Mark Weber, rationality in economics is defined by the use of means to achieve ends, with the most influent type of being formal rationality, which focus on calculability and efficiency in the market economy, particularly through methods like capital accounting. Mark Weber also described substantive rationality, which is guided by a broad set of values or ultimate goal regardless of the nature. The most important and very crucial point, Mark Weber also mentioned and described about the bureaucracy, and bureaucracy was also a model of rational governance by Mark Weber as well. Here is the bureaucracy was Weber model of rational governance. There are 5 stages or different 5 stages of each other of rational governance, including number 1, hierarchical structure; number 2, management by rule; number 3, organization by functional specialty; number 4, purposely impersonal; and the last one of the rational government, which is employment based on technical qualification. This is very important and also the crucial point about the bureaucracy as a Weber model of rational government. Number 5 of the chapter 3 is about cultural modernization. Like I mentioned at the moment or at the beginning of my presentation today, is about the modernization. In this context, number 5 is about cultural modernization. Secularization and rationalization require change in cultural patterns. These changes were categorized by Pearson as pattern variable pattern of related value with which people make judgment about other members of the society or the community, or the way people oriented themselves within social relationship. And social change was essentially a matter of how we perceive people with whom we come into contact, whether in the family, wider social organization, territorial community, or occupation. For those who didn't know about the pattern variable, is a concept developed by sociologist Talcott Parson. I am sorry for any pronunciation incorrectly. Counted persons are a set of 5 dichotomous choice that individuals face in a social situation, helping to analyze how they make decisions and perform rules. And the conceptualization of the modern contrasts with the pre-modern by a shift from tradition-based and society to one driven by reason, science, and individualization or individualism. Here is the person emphasize about the conceptualization of modern and pre-modern social pattern produced by the German sociologist Tony, who distinguished between the 2 historical fundamental forms of social organization. And in this slideshow, the notice is that the German language is about the Gemeinschaft is usually translated as a community, and the Gesellschaft is translated as society or association. I am sorry for any pronunciation because it's the new one for me to speak about the language of the German language. And for the Tony or the Ferdinand Tony, he also mentioned in the script about the Gemeinschaft was represented by all intimate, private, and exclusive living together. The family, marriage, religious community, and community of language, far away, more, and believe and by certain sort of prosperity. And the Tony also claimed that there exists a community of ownership is in field, forest, and pasture. Additionally, Ferdinand Tony also stood for the public of life in the Gesellschaft, stood for public of life, political institution, the realm of business, travel, or science, and commercial company. Number 6 of the chapter 3, Modernization and Political Change, that I mentioned at the beginning, it also linked with this number 6, the Modernization of Personality. A psychological view, the importance of the individual personality trait. There are 3 important of the chapter that mention and involved in these points of view as well, including the Everett Hagen, Alec Engel, and David Maxlin. For the Maxlin was influenced by Weber's description of the spirit that I provide you to know about the Weber description at the moment. Also link about the spirit to the Maxlin as well. So Maxlin also influenced by Weber description of the spirit as well, of the capitalism, concluding that the Calvinistic doctrine of the predestination forced people to strive for perfection and to rationalize every aspect of the life, and they had a strong need for achievement. 7. About the criticism of the modernization theory. The most telling criticisms are summarized below, grouped together by reference to the concept which pose the most serious problem for anyone wishing to advance the understanding of the change in the third world. I also list the 5 points, including the concept of tradition, unilinarity, dichotomous model, tautology, and the psychology of modernization. But I will explain one by one from the concept of tradition. The concept of tradition, as developed by modernization series, pose numerous problems. First, there is the emphasis on the abstract social development and the way modernization theory draw upon earlier evolutionary mode of thinking in order to characterize as the traditional anything in developing society which appear to be such an abstraction. Unilinearity. This brings us to the idea of a unilinear path to modernity and the presupposition that developing countries were distinct to become like those in the West. And the German economist Andre Gander Frank, sorry for any incorrect pronunciation, produced one of the most penetrating critique of the faulty historical assumption of the modernization theory in denying underdeveloped countries their own history, in ignoring the connection between that history and the history of developed countries, in overlooking the fact that perpetration by foreign influence had not produced development or led to TECHO, and in misrepresenting the history of today developed countries as not having been dependent on the exploitation of today underdeveloped society. And the dichotomous model is a modernization theory provided ideal type of model of traditional and modern society to show along with dimension. They could be said to differ, but these tell every limit about the dynamic of transition from one cultural state to another. And the tautology is a tip also argues that modernization theory is over-ambitious in its attempt to incorporate all social change since the 17th century. Consequently, the key concepts are too vague and open-ended, often reducing theoretical proposition to meaningless tautology. And the last one of the criticism of the modernization theory, which is the psychology of modernization. The psychology of modernization in this dimension of the modernization theory suffer from reductionism. It derives the attribute of social processes from statements about individual. Explanation of the social behavior are reduced to psychological statements. The individual also constitute the only social in reality. So, to remind this presentation, I'd like to make the conclusion as a summary of the Chapter 3, Modernization and Political Change. Like you can see in the context of the chapter, what have been referred to the modernization theory was built up by the contribution of many scholars from a wide range of disciplines that I mentioned at the moment from at the beginning to the middle of my presentation. Only the major lines of thought have been identified here. Undoubtedly, too many refinement and nuance have been omitted. Justice has not been done to impressive array of methodology which modernization theories utilize, nor has it been possible in this brief survey to capture the interaction between scholars of the modernization persuasion as they respond to each other, refinement and modification of the key idea. The most troubled aspect of the modernization theory is its interdisciplinarity. This is its major bequest to the study of social change. Economic and political change are related in a various way to fundamental change in the social value and social structure. And my presentation of the chapter 3 come to an end. Thank you so much for your watching and pay attention to listen my presentation in this video. Thank you.